folks, welcome back to another top 10 list in my series of top 10 game mechanisms. I'm going through all 10 of my game mechanisms that are my favorite and giving you 10 games for each of those mechanisms that are my favorite games within those game mechanisms. So this video is focusing on my number 6 game mechanism of all time, and that is area control games. Now, my definition of area control is where you are trying to control an area, and if you control that area, you're going to be getting bonuses, possibly game-ending results or game-winning results or something to that effect, where you have to spend your dudes on a map more often than not, trying to control certain areas on the board, and if you do that, you get a bonus either in-game or at the end of the game, or both, for controlling those areas. So that's kind of where I stuck with these 10 games. Let's see if I did a good job with it. So my number 10 is a game called Revolution that's put out by Steve Jackson Games. Now, a lot of people have played this game, some of them on my recommendation, and have not enjoyed it. So it is definitely an acquired taste, but I do enjoy the auction bidding system if you use the variant where you don't lose your money if you don't win a bid, or a bribe in this case. So there is that caveat. But the area control, where you are controlling certain areas, certain buildings within the city, the harbor, the church, the armory, there's a lot of different things that are there, and you get points if you have the most in those different places, the most cubes. There's not dudes, it's cubes. But I really enjoy the game. I enjoyed it when it first came out. I actually tried it first on a recommendation from somebody else, and I really enjoyed it. So that is Revolution from Steve Jackson Games, my number 10. My number 9 is a game called Nexus Ops. Now, this one kind of flew under the radar for a lot of years with me. Now, I tried it way back when it first came out. Well, not when it first came out, but under Avalon Hill, and Fantasy Flight has since reprinted it. My copy is still the Avalon Hill version of it, and I just really enjoy the game. I was reintroduced to it just a couple months ago, back in December, on the Dice Tower cruise. A couple of guys came up and said, "Hey, listen, you always talk about Nexus Ops. There's a copy here. Why don't we get it played?" And I was like, well, okay, I guess we could do that. Had to stumble through the rules a little bit more because it'd been so long since I played it. And boy, did I enjoy myself. And I enjoy the camaraderie with the two guys I was playing. My son was playing as well. So we just had a great time, and that kind of reinvigorated, I guess you could say, my liking of the game. So I made this list on my number 9, Nexus Ops. Now, my number 8 is actually a redone version of Wallenstein. And it was printed before Wallenstein was reprinted, given a second edition. And I really enjoyed Shogun much more than Wallenstein. And most of that is because of the map. I like the map a lot better than the German map. The Japanese map, just for me, is much more fun to play on than the German map is. So that's one of the main reasons I like Shogun over Wallenstein. But you can basically put Wallenstein here if you want to, if it makes you feel any better that I'm not including Wallenstein on the list. Shogun is Wallenstein with a Japanese theme on it. So I just enjoy that version better. So Shogun is my number 8. My number 7 is a game that is a newcomer last year, and that's Star Wars Rebellion. I really enjoy this game. It's a very back and forth 2-player game. You can play it with 4 players, but it's really at its heart a 2-player game where one person is taking on the role of the Empire, the other person is taking on the role of the Rebellion, and you're battling for control over the different planets of the galaxy. And of course, the rebels have their secret rebel base on one of the planets, and the Imperials are trying to find them somehow, way, shape, or form. But it's usually by controlling these different planets that are also giving you the ability to create more ships and put it into your war machine and so forth and so on. It's a really neat game mechanism of area control in this one. Really enjoyed it a lot. So it made my number 7 Star Wars Rebellion. My number 6 is also a newcomer this past year, and it's put out by Stronghold Games. and it's called Sola Fide, the Reformation. Now, this is another two-player area control game where one person is taking on the role of the Roman Catholic Church and the other one is taking on the role of the Protestant Reformation. And you're vying for control over the different areas of Reformation era Europe. And it's a really interesting back and forth. It has an interesting card drafting mechanism where you are not drafting from each other's hands, but each player is drafting cards from their deck. They'll draw 3 at a time, choose one, put the other 2 aside, and you keep doing that until you have your card deck set. I really enjoy the area control. It's a very tight back and forth push. Sometimes it can swing heavily in one direction and the other times it'll swing heavily in the other. I really enjoy the area control here. It just has a very, I don't know, maybe it's the theme that does it more for me than anything else, because I know Campaign Manager also did pretty much the same game with just a different skin over it. But Sola Fide really stands out for me. So that's why it made my number 6, Sola Fide, the Reformation. Now, my number 5 is a new-ish game. I was introduced to this one at Origins last year, and that is Tyrants of the Underdark, where each player is taking on the role of a different faction of drow in the underworld in Dungeons and Dragons universe. And I don't know, the theme is not really there for me because I'm okay with Dungeons and Dragons and that theme, and I know the books are very well done and all this other kind of stuff, but it was neither here nor there for me. But what really drew me in was the deck building aspect of the game and the area control mechanism that's going on the board, and how those two really worked well together, and that's why I liked it. The deck building kind of leads into the area control, but really the area control aspect of the board is where you're going to be scoring most of your points, in my opinion at least. So I really think that Tyrants of the Underdark is a great area control game. Go check it out. My number 5, Tyrants of the Underdark. Now, my number 4 is put out by Portal Games, and this one is Cry Havoc. Now, the thing that I really like about this one is that the races are all asymmetrical, and you are all vying for control over these different areas on this new planet. You could play the Trogs, though, that are indigenous to the planet, and they're trying to defend their homeland against all of these would-be invaders. So you have the machines and the humans and the pilgrims and the Trogs that are all fighting for control over these different things. The Trogs have a leg up, so to speak, because they know their planet, but and if you don't leave them alone, if you leave them alone, they'll win. But if you all kind of work together, but you're all still trying to vie, it sounds confusing. I'm not really on board with the whole combat mechanism, but it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's just not the best in my opinion. But area control aspect of this game is off the charts. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoy the game as well. So that's my number 4, Cry Havoc. My number 3 flew under the radar for a long time. A long time being a subjective term, I understand that. But Madigo put out Inish, and I know, maybe I'm mispronouncing it, maybe I'm not. I like the way Inish sounds better than Innis. So, there. Anyway, my number 3 is Inish, and I really enjoyed the area control aspect of this game because it took into account a lot more than just having the most dudes on the map in a certain area. Sometimes you just had to have presence, so you weren't really necessarily controlling the area. It's more of a area presence type game in some aspects. I mean, you can control the areas, and that's a way to win, but there's also other ways to win as well. So I really enjoyed that aspect of this area control game. Really enjoy how the game looks. Has a great graphic design, in my opinion, and I loved how the board kind of just fit together in an asymmetrical but still symmetrical kind of way. It just, I know I'm weird, but I really enjoyed this game a lot. So it's my number 3 area control game, Inish. My number 2 is a game that we have talked about a lot on the Dice Tower, and we were very ecstatic when it was announced that there was going to be a second edition for it, and that is Mission Red Planet. Now, there's a couple of different things that really put this high on many of the lists that we do. For me, I love the simultaneous action selection. I love the different cards. However, everybody has the same cards and you're trying to outguess everybody else and when you're trying to play it. I love trying to get the Explorer out when nobody else is, so you can make sure that you get more guys up on Mars. But the area control aspect of Mars is what really is a cool thing. And the addition of Phobos in the second edition was a pretty neat, interesting thing, because it really kind of keeps you on your toes as far as making sure that you're garnering the control of the different areas on Mars, because somebody can play the right person and just bloop, drop their guys off of Phobos onto wherever they want it to go on Mars. So there's a lot of cool area control things going on with Mission Red Planet. Really enjoy it. That's why it's my number 2, Mission Red Planet. And so my number 1 area control game for me is Small World. And Small World is a very fun area control game for me because I love all of the different combinations of races and abilities that change from game to game to game. Now, the area control aspect of the game is really basic and straightforward. It's not difficult at all, but it's all the races and the abilities that get added to that that really makes that shine. So the area control mechanism, very basic, but I still think that this is tops as far as an area control game for me, because I just love the simplicity of it, but I love all of the different stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So that is my number 1 area control game, Small World. And so that's it for my top 10 area control games. I know you guys probably don't agree with something on my list. Let me know in the comments below. I'll stop by and talk with you if I'm able to, at least drop a line or two here and there. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the list, but we'll see you guys on the flip side.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.